Well, welcome back. It's Travel Tuesday, and our next guest helps African Americans trace their roots beyond the shores of America and back to Africa, where Black history first began.
Year-round, Anagho-Brown of Roots to Glory works to fill in the blanks about where our forefathers came from with DNA tests, followed up by guided tours that reveal a hidden history for so many. This is exciting.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for having us here. So I'm Anagho-Brown, and Roots to Glory, we are focused on that journey, where our ancestors came from, what was their culture, what was their tradition. So a lot of people nowadays are doing their DNA, finding out where they come from. If you're Cameroonian,
I just sent mine in.
You did? Yeah, good. If you're Cameroonian or Ivorian or Nigerian, you want to know, okay, now I know where I come from, my ancestors came from, but I want to know a little bit more. I want to know why Aunt Betty does the things that she does. And if you go on these journeys with us and you go to the different villages, you'll find Aunt Betty's clone in some of those places. Really? And you'll be able to also understand why some of the cultures that you do, like sweeping at a certain time of the day, your great-grandmothers in particular, if you remember that time of their lives when they were telling you some things about what they understood about their culture, you'll find a lot of that and a lot of the answers in Africa.
That is so amazing. How did you get started? Because for many African Americans, if you arrived in this country during the slave trade, you were told you're American now, don't speak your language, lose all of your cultures from your homeland. So there's really kind of like no connection unless you get the DNA test and go.
Exactly. And thank God for DNA testing, because this has really helped so many people and so many families reconnect that you would never know. I mean, we started because we believe that the journey did not stop after the DNA test. So if you do your DNA, that's not the end of your journey. The end of your journey is actually going back to the continent, stepping foot where your ancestors stepped, understanding that culture and their heritage. And we wanted to make that available for everybody that wanted to do that.
And you took some groups back. It looks like a very eclectic group of people connecting with their...
Yes, we recently came back from Nigeria, had a big trip there. We were in Cameroon, we were in Benin, and so many different places. And you find out that when people go, and I say to people all the time, when you land on the continent, there's something that's going to happen to your soul that you're not going to be prepared for. But just know that it's a joy. And for years, imagine that your ancestors were enslaved and they were going through this process of Middle Passage and all that. And the entire time they kept thinking, I want to just go back to my family. And I believe that DNA has memory. That memory carried on for generations. And now the descendants are saying, I want to go back to that country. I want to go back to that land. And so when you hit the land and you hit the soil, a lot of people just break down and cry. It's just an emotional journey. It's something that I never get tired of doing. I always feel like every new experience that somebody has is a new experience that we have at Roots to Glory. So it's fantastic.
Pepita, you're wearing traditional garb, correct? So traditional attire.
Yes.
Tell us about what you're wearing.
What I'm wearing right now is made in the north of Cote d'Ivoire, called the Korogo. It's a hand-woven fabric. I mean, they're made by men and then painted.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is gorgeous.
Yes.
Now, I understand your next trip is to the Cote d'Ivoire. Tell us about that.
So we plan our trips around the diaspora. So if you're in Washington, D.C., you know there's certain African diaspora. They're all over the place. And so we work with the diaspora. Like, for instance, we went to Pepita and said, listen, we really want to go to Cote d'Ivoire because a lot of people are tracing their DNA there. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to introduce you to my country. And so we took a tour there, took a trip to, prepare for our trip in September. And we went to the north, and we specifically spent time with the Sinafo cultural group and ethnic group. And they're in northern Cote d'Ivoire, which is kind of on the border of Mali and Burkina Faso. So that culture has a lot of similarities with other cultures.
Right.
And I don't know if you know this, but Cote d'Ivoire is like the big melting pot of Africa with, the Akan people that are also in Ghana and some ethnic groups that are in Liberia are also found in Cote d'Ivoire.
Thank you so much for sharing this amazing, I mean, it's like the trip of a lifetime. And you've brought some musical instruments and shea butter and things people might find and maybe want to take back with them to America after they connect with
Exactly.
their
And
culture.
this particular bird, they call it the sinufu bird, and they say that you put it in your house, it hides the secret of the house in its belly.
I love it. I'm going to do a video with you after the show if you can stick around.
All right,
and I'll post it on my Facebook so you can see more. There's so much more to this. We'll share more on Facebook. But for now, we'll be right back.